Hi, Steve here. Before I get started, I wanted to alert you to the websites and the changes that we've made to thinkaboutit.online and thinkaboutit.news. Two different sites. They'll both have the important news that you need to know about, but also they have a completely different feel and look to them. So choose the one that you like the most and check in daily and weekly to find out what's happening in the world on each site. I've got new videos and those will be uploaded and kept up to date all the time. So check out thinkaboutit.online and thinkaboutit.news and decide which one you like the most.
I wish more would have been done.
Plausible deniability only works when it's plausible.
Plausible deniability. It is a term allowing high-ranking officials to deny any responsibility regarding illegal activities. The term was first hatched by the arrogance of Allen Dulles' 1960s CIA. Plausible deniability surrounded the JFK assassination.
Who killed John F. Kennedy? The commission answers unequivocally, Lee Harvey Oswald.
In 1953, they both took office. John Foster Dulles became Secretary of State. Allen Dulles became director of the CIA. It's the only time in history that siblings control the overt and the covert sides of American foreign policy.
And like the Dulles brothers who covertly got the United States into foreign entanglements worldwide, to put it mildly, the Biden brothers are using the very same terminology, plausible deniability, to protect their untouchable sellout scheme.
Mr. Biden! Hi, do you care to answer some questions?
No.
Just wondering, why did you involve Joe Biden in your China deal? Why did you and Hunter Biden want Joe Biden to meet with Tony B?
What are you talking about?
Are you Mr. Jim Biden? I wanted to ask you about the China deal. What about the plausible deniability? Did you tell Tony B plausible deniability?
I remember looking at Jim Biden and saying, how are you guys getting away with this? Like, aren't you concerned? And he looked at me and he laughed a little bit and said, plausible deniability.
FBI, fidelity, bravery, integrity. And there's the war map, pins tagged with the names of special agents and placed where the agents are.
Mr. Johnson, I think it's going to be necessary to enlarge the detail of agents at Little Rock, Arkansas.
Since its inception, the FBI has operated as a two-tiered agency. One, a respected force of G-men hunting down dangerous outlaws and serial killers, and another we can call the Deep State FBI, an upper echelon of political thugs.
Did FDR ask the Bureau to investigate his wife?
Yes, he did. He had information, and I don't know from where, but he asked Hoover at that particular time to put a surveillance on Mrs. Roosevelt for the purpose of determining whether or not she was having secret rendezvous with a certain Army colonel and with a state trooper in New York. And we did that accordingly at the instructions of the president, which brings up to mind the FBI has been used or misused by many presidents. And
did you ever get any sense of what the president did with the information?
None whatsoever, and we could care less. Frankly, it was misusage of the FBI by a president. And I think here again that President Roosevelt misused the FBI more than any other president, although they have been used by most all presidents since the beginning or since the inception of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
The Deep State FBI is now front and center in a developing plot to mislead the American people. Not about individual Americans like, for instance, MLK, JFK, or John Lennon, but the American people itself. 5 years after Seth Rich's mysterious death and due to a FOIA request, the FBI quietly released 137 pages of heavily redacted documents detailing internal emails and memos of the FBI. 68 of those pages regarded their interest in investigation into Rich's death. These documents followed years of the FBI claiming that they had no involvement in the Seth Rich case, yet they used Seth Rich's murder as padding for their Russia conspiracy hoax that fell apart. The very first email is dated a month after Seth Rich's murder and involves the notorious adulterous FBI duo Strzok and Page. Evidently, Strzok, intending to impress Page, claims that for her situational awareness, he squashed the Seth Rich situation with an unknown redacted person or act. More emails reveal that the FBI came into possession of Rich's laptop. The page also indicates that authorities were not aware if the person deleted or changed anything on Rich's personal laptop.
Why has D.C. police, as the lead agency on the investigation for the past 10 months, insisted this was a botched robbery when till this day there is no evidence to suggest that?
John Bound reporting.
Here's a big story from Daily Mail. And again, it's like, yeah, we know. Ilhan Omar did marry her brother and said she would do what she had to get him papers to keep him in the U.S., reveals Somali community leader. Ilhan Omar told friends years ago that the man who went on to become her second husband was in fact her brother. We know. No, we've known this forever. No, she committed immigration fraud. No, she's like not American. You get that, right? In no way, shape, or form is she American at all. She's an interloper. She has no respect for American law, no respect for American citizenship. She gives speeches in her own language to a crowd of Somalians about how she's going to benefit Somalia. Their strategy is they, find an area that's pretty solidly red, and elects a Republican congressman, and then they just move 100,000 Somalis into that district, and now that's their district. It's the Somalian district. Why is she allowed to be in this country, let alone have a position of authority in this country? This is not her country. She's the one telling you that. I'm not the one saying that. If she wanted to come over and just be American, great, more power to her. She has instead chosen at every opportunity to disadvantage America, to exploit America. It's just on a personal level what she's doing as a congresswoman. So what are we going to deport her? What are we going to do? I mean, it's admitted now. So what are we going to do about this?
It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us embark on this journey together towards a government that does not serve, but one that enlightens. That does not just serve, but one that enlightens. Trust through transparency, that begins now.
2025 is becoming a year of what I call the unveiling. After the last 4 years that America just lived through, it has to be glaringly obvious, just like night is to day, how things are changing very rapidly. The politicians are screaming as loud as they can, trying to gather as much attention from the public to their woes into the breaking down of democracy. But then we've heard this all before. If these politicians and these government agencies have done nothing wrong, why are they so fearful of the government now wanting to be transparent? We really are witnessing history being made in 2025. So how is it that we're witnessing such an impactful turnaround as we see now? The answer can be found from the prophet Isaiah. He said, "So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against him." I've seen signs of the enemy flooding into America for 25 years, and I don't think that most Americans really did. But in the last 4 years, I've seen things that have reached a level that we could have never imagined. And that's why the people of God prayed, as God told Israel to pray. "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and heal their land. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to prayer made in this place. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will uproot them from my land, which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name I will cast out of my sight, and will make it a proverb and a byword among all peoples." Not everything in the Old Testament applies to the New Covenant or the New Testament and the church, but these verses concerning humbling ourselves and asking God to heal our land are continuous and do apply from the Old to the New Testament in the principles that God has for his people. Remember, the Bible says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. For those of you who are anti-Trump and leave comments that Trump is controlled opposition, ask yourself, what exactly is he opposing? Because all I see is that he's opposing the lawlessness that's been going on for the last 2 decades. Okay, he's made mistakes. He has done things I don't like, yes. But I don't believe that it's a good thing to throw the baby out with the bathwater when you empty the tub. Why not give up your pessimistic attitude and thank God for the good things that we see happening in America now? Let me remind you what Jesus said about judging by appearances. Don't judge by appearance, superficially and arrogantly, but judge fairly and righteously. Think about it.